YouTube! It's Friday, you know what that means. It's week 2, and this week we're talking a little bit about how we met our partners, where they're at in their transition, and how their transition has affected or changed our sexual identity. And so Jake and I have known each other for a little over 10 years. We were actually working together at a music school. I was 16, I had a car and a license. He was 14 and he was just out of middle school, so I'm a cradle robber. But we were all in a room together one day. I remember the first time I met him, the owner of the school asked us a question or something, and we had to talk to each other about it, and we looked at each other and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute, I have to get to know this person, I want to hang out with this person and get to know a little bit more about him. So we started IMing on AOL, because that's what the cool kids do, and I was like, I have to tell you something, I really like you, and he's like, oh, you too. And I was like, well, we should hang out sometime, and he's like, yeah, we should. So we decided to go to the movies, and at that point, he was still going by his birth name. He had tried coming out to his mom, and his mom was like, no, you can never do anything about this. So he just had to hide it and pretend like he was just a cisgender female, and it really sucked. But everybody knew him as Megan at that point and thought maybe, oh, she's just a tomboy or a lesbian or something. And I at that point didn't even know if he liked girls, so it was like a total shot in the dark even asking him to hang out with me. But he said yes. So one day after rock school, I picked him up, we came back to my house, and I had to change my clothes because I was still in my school uniform, because I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. And so I was all ready to go. I'm trying to walk out the door, and he's standing in the doorway, and I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of the doorway, you're in my way. And then I realized that he wanted to kiss, and so I leaned in and we kissed. And I have to tell you, YouTube, that I've never had a kiss like that before in my entire life. My whole rest of my life, I don't think I'll ever feel the same way that I felt in that moment. It was like fate, and I knew at that point that that's the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So we dated, we make out all the time. Pretty much at the beginning of the relationship, I think he told me that he felt like he was transgender. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. I got it, but I don't think at that point I really knew what it meant, or what it meant to be in a relationship with someone who was transgender, and setting boundaries and respecting each other's boundaries. And we were both pretty young and naive at that point, and I feel like it was hard to have a serious relationship without really knowing what it meant. So at the time I dated girls and guys. I didn't really have the label of oh, I'm gay or I'm bisexual or whatever, so I didn't really mind that he identified as male on the inside. But on the outside, he was still going by Megan and hadn't started transitioning or anything. So everyone just thought that we were a lesbian couple. And I was like, whatever, I don't care. My friends were cool about it. And I tried a lot of different labels. I tried saying, oh, I'm a lesbian. But that didn't feel right. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm bisexual because I like girls and guys. But that didn't really fit either. And so I'm still kind of searching for that label. But at the time, I guess we were a lesbian couple, Kim and Megan. But we dated for maybe a year and a half or so, and then one day, I guess his mom found a note that I'd written him, just kind of telling him how I felt about him. And hold on. So anyways, his mom finds this note where I basically was telling him all about how I felt about him and how much I loved him and stuff, and I guess she had found some of our instant messages too, and she was like, you cannot see this girl anymore, you have to go tell her that you can't hang out with her anymore. Like I said, at this point she knew that Jake was kind of struggling with his identity as transgender, but she didn't know that we were dating, I don't think, and she didn't know that that he even was interested in girls, so she was not okay with it, and she was like, you have to break up with her, can't see her anymore. So we kind of grew apart at that point, and he had a new girlfriend in between that time, and I dated other people, but the whole time I always thought about him and how things didn't really feel the same as when I was with him. And we would try getting back together every once in a while, and he would always kind of blow me off. So then I dated girls and guys in between that time, and I still didn't really have a label. You know, I kind of tried different labels, lesbian, bisexual, but nothing really fit, and, you know, I just kind of, you know, was attracted to who I was attracted to and didn't care. So, didn't really have a sexual identity at that point, but so anyways, just a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, my band was looking for a drummer, and I was like, you know what, I'll suck it up. Jake is the most amazing drummer that I know, so I'll ask him to be in the band. And, you know, I got it in my head, I won't try anything further than just friends with him. You know, this time around, we'll just be friends, and it'll be fine, because every time that we tried to get back together up to that point, it never really worked out. So I asked him to be in my band again, and he said yes, and so it was going really amazing. And one night we were all out at a bar, and one of my best friends was like, you know, why don't you and Megan just date? Because at the time he was still, he was out with a lot of his friends. They knew that he was trans, but he hadn't started transitioning or anything, and he was still going by his birth name. So, anyway, my best friend was like, why don't you and Megan just date? And I was like, well, you know, I've been there, done that, I've tried it many times, and it never worked out, so I don't want to put myself out there again and get rejected again. So, of course, by the end of the night, she convinced me. So, we're leaving the bar, and she gets in her car to go home, and it's just me and Jake, and we're hugging, and I was like, you know, do you want to come back to my house? And he's like, no. So, like, there I am, rejected again. But, we kind of kept talking about it, and yeah, I was like, you're the coolest person I ever dated. I wish that it would have worked out with us. And we both kind of decided to give it another shot. So he came over to my house one night after going ice skating with some friends, and we kissed, and it was great. And he asked me if he could keep me, and I said yes. And then I accidentally slipped up and told him I loved him, and totally awkward. So here we are today, happily in a relationship. We've been dating for about 2.5 years. And not that far into the relationship, he decided that he really wanted to start his transition, because he was kind of at a crossroads where he was about to graduate from college and get a full-time job, and he didn't want to have to deal with that whole, like, oh, so you're female but you go by Jake. You know, he didn't want to have to deal with all the questions. He wanted to get his gender and name legally changed before he was looking for a full-time job. So, you know, I really encouraged it, and I was like, you know, this is something that you need to do for yourself. If it's going to make you feel more comfortable and have more opportunities, you need to do it as soon as possible, but do it for you, not for anybody else. And so he decided to start going to see a therapist, and we waited forever and ever for the letter, and finally got the letter saying he could start T. So he went to an endocrinologist and started testosterone. And this past month, at the end of January, we went to Florida, and he had top surgery with Dr. Garamoni, which was great, and I met all the other ladies on this YouTube channel, and it was a really good time, really positive experience, and I was so proud of him. I told him that I didn't think it was possible to love him any more than I already did, but just to see him go through something so crazy and to be so strong and brave through the entire experience, you know, I was like, I fell in love with him all over again. So, I'm really proud of him, and I'm really happy he's recovering well. So the scary part is over. He's, I think, like 4 weeks post-op, so he's doing really well, and you know, he's still kind of worried about everything healing up okay and everything, but I think once he heals, he's gonna feel a lot more comfortable in his own skin and in public, and no more binders, so that's great. It's a lot easier. But so as far as his transition affecting my sexual orientation, I don't think that it really has at all, because even from the beginning, I knew that he was transgender. At first, I didn't know exactly what it meant, but I knew, and I didn't really care either way. I find myself attracted to people not based on what reproductive parts they have, but just, you know, I'm attracted to men and women, or both or neither. So I feel like I never really had the label to begin with. I have sort of been flirting with the label of pansexual, as Danielle said as well, but you know, I'm still kind of figuring it out. And, you know, to a lot of people on the outside, we look like just a cisgendered straight couple, and that's fine. And at the same time, it's like I feel like I still really belong within the LGBT community, and I don't want to give that up either. But, you know, I also don't want to out my partner out of respect for him. So, you know, if people ask, I don't mind explaining, but to most people, we just look like a straight couple, and that's fine. And So I don't think that his transition has really affected my sexual orientation at all, because like I told him, I'm happy for him. I encourage him to go through with this, and I don't care, what parts he has, what parts he doesn't have. At the same time, I'm really excited to have a whole nother part of him that I can touch and look at, and it doesn't make him uncomfortable. So I'm really excited for that. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions or anything, or if you have any similar situations to tell me about, I would love to hear it. And we will have some great, maybe some funny, interesting stories for you next week. So please keep watching and have a great weekend. Okay, bye!